بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Today, before we begin, I just want to mention a definition of Usul al-Fiqh, different from the one we mentioned last week, so we can have another definition to help us. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, in his book Usul min Ilm al-Usul, he says Usul al-Fiqh is the knowledge that examines the comprehensive fiqh evidences and how to benefit from them and the condition of the mujtahid. Usul al-Fiqh is the knowledge that researches or examines the comprehensive fiqh evidences. So it's important here, adillatul tafsiriyya, no adillatul ijmaliyya. This is usul al-Fiqh, ijmaliyya, the comprehensive. And how to benefit from them and the condition of the mujtahid, means the mustafid, the one who benefits people by way of them. So in this definition, it's not fiqh, because we said fiqh, it deals with the ahkam al-amaliyya, action-based rulings, based on adillatul tafsiliyya, adillah that are detailed, not comprehensive. So this is the definition the Shaykh gives, page 8 of the kitab. So when you have that in the back of your mind, you understand what we're studying here. Before we move to the second chapter, we have to ask a question. Last week we were studying the two types of different evidences. Usul, we said there are adilla al-ijmaliyya and adilla al-tafsiliyya. So for example, if someone were to ask or mention the point that it's recommended to use the miswak or the siwak before the salah. It's recommended to use the siwak before the salah. What kind of evidences do we have for both categories? How can we prove it from the tafsiliyya and the ijmaliyya? Anybody knows? Someone says it's recommended to use siwak before the salah. Yeah.
Tafsiliyya will be the hadith that end up in the salah to do it with every prayer.
Good, so first we will begin with the tafsiliyya, detailed evidence. Hadith Abu Hurairah, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لولا أنا أشق عن أمتي لأمرتهم بسواك عند كل صلاة. So if it wasn't difficult for my ummah, I would order them to use the siwak with every prayer. So this is clear text, Bukhari, Muslim, tafsiri, telling us that such an action exists. What about then the ruling for the ijmaliyya? Yes, how would we know recommend an obligation? So from that hadith, how would we know? Lawla. So he said if it wasn't difficult, لأمرتهم. So أمرتهم means wajib, but he said lawla, so he left it. So therefore it goes from the wajib to the mustahab. And we're going to learn about mustahab. So it makes sense there. So there we have both evidences. We use tafsiriyya to establish the asl, and then we explain from there why we said mustahab, not wajib. Because someone may come and say it's wajib to do it. And we'll say no, brother, because if someone said lawla ana shukra ummati, if it wasn't difficult. And how do we know it's mustahab? Well, we're going to discuss that. What does mustahab even mean? Is it clear? So every time we learn something in fiqh, we look at both evidences, because the Shaykh said last week you can't establish a ruling except with both. You can't do it. You can't have a ruling in Islam except you have both dalil. So we need to pay attention to collecting both for whatever we're able to do. طيب, Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah, he says in the second chapter, الأحكام التي يدور الفقه عليها خمسة, that the rulings which fiqh revolves around are 5. So they call these أحكام الخمسة. أحكام الخمسة. The first of them, الواجب الذي يثاب فاعله ويعاقب تاركه. The first is wajib, which translates to an obligation, which the doer is rewarded for this action and punished for leaving off the action. So wajib, if you do it, you get thawab min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reward. And if you don't, you get punishment. So very important that when something is called wajib, it's taken seriously. Then he says, wal haramu. Haram is the next one. He says, didduhu. It's the exact opposite. So haram is that which, if you do it, you don't get thawab, reward, but you get iqab, punishment. And if you leave it off, you get reward. So leaving off haram is not something you just do it because Islamically people say it's bad to do it. So it's an ibadah to leave off the haram. So haram is that which if you do it, you get a punishment. And if you leave it off, you get reward. The next one, the third one, al-masnoon, which they also call mandub or mustahab. All of these things are synonymous meanings. Al-masnoon, al-mandub, mustahab. الذي يثاب فاعله ولا يعاقب تاركه. It's that which the doer is rewarded for doing this action, but not punished for leaving it off. So this is what we call mustahab. If you're rewarded for doing the action, but you're not punished for leaving it off. So the prior example we gave regarding the siwak, if you use it before the wudu and the salah, you get thawab. But if you didn't, no punishment. So that's why, right, this is called mustahab, recommended. Then he says the fourth one, al-makruh. And makruh, according to the scholars, especially the latter scholars, and we'll explain that there's slight difference. But the latter scholars, when they say makruh, didduhu, it's the opposite. Which means if you leave it off, you get reward. But if you did do this action, you don't get any sin. This is called disliked, makruh. But the earlier scholars, when they used the word makruh and karahiyah, they intended prohibition. And we'll explain that later. And the last one, the fifth one is mubah. Al-mubah mustawi al-tarafayn. Shaykh Sa'di says, al-mubah, what's called lawful or permissible or allowed, is that action which is equal on both sides. It's nor that you get reward for doing it in and of itself, nor prohibited if you were to do it or get punishment in and of itself. So it's mustawi tarafayn. Both ways it's the same. So the Shaykh, when he mentions these, Shaykh Sa'di, then he's going to go one by one into explaining the different types. Like means, what are the differences in fard? What are the rules in relation to mustahab? So the first benefit, we should learn that the ahkam we're looking at now, ahkam al-khamsa, they all deal with what the ulama refer to as ahkam al-taklifiyya. These are called ahkam al-taklifiyya. And what it means is that these are actions which are taklifi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants us to perform it. It's a legal responsibility on us. So the rulings we're having here, we're judging if something is allowed to do, not allowed to do, must do. These are called ahkam at-taklifi or taklifiyya. The rulings in relation to the legally responsible person and the legislation. There are a different set of rules that come, we'll mention them later, which are not like these. So when you hear the 5 rulings, mubah, mustahab, makruh, haram, wajib, these are ahkam at-taklifiyya. They have to do with the legally responsible actions. There are a different set of rules which are not like these 5. So why are they important to know? Shaykh Shathari, he mentions some people, they misunderstand terminology in fiqh. So Shaykh may say, for example, so-and-so action is la yajuz. It's not permissible. Or he'll say it's jaiz. Or he'll say it's mubah. Some people get confused. They think these terms have different meanings, but sometimes they don't. So, for example, if someone doesn't know the terminology Islamically, he'll get confused in the fatwa or a question if it's answered to him. For example, someone says something's haram or ghayr jaiz. Both mean the same thing, he says. It means it's not allowed to do it. Not if you say something is ghayr jaiz, it's still allowed, and then haram is not allowed. So this is why the ulama did this list. They categorize the rulings so people don't get confused in the rulings. For some people get confused. So the first thing Shaykh Sa'di deals with, he says, وَيَنْقَسِمُ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَى فَرْضُ عَيْنِ وَفَرْضُ الْكِفَايَةِ. So wajib, it breaks into 2 categories. 2 categories. Fard, ayn, which would be translated as an individual obligation. And the second one, communal obligation. Fard, kifaya. So first one, fard ayn, individual obligation. And the second one, fard kifaya, communal obligation. So what is an individual obligation? He says, يُطْلَبُ فِعْلُهُ مِنْ كُلِّ مُكَلِّفٍ بَالِغٍ عَاقِلٍ. It's an action that is sought out from every legally responsible, baligh, mature, sane individual, aqil. So mukallif is the person who has to carry the legally responsible actions. Baligh means their age of maturity, sane means they have sanity. So there are certain people who are removed from those categories. For example, one who's ghayr aqil, the one who has insanity, doesn't have to, because he's not in the correct state of mind. فرض عين وهو جمهور أحكام الشرعية الواجبة. majority of the legislated obligations in Sharia are fard ayn. So take a note of that, fard ayn. So it's not allowed for someone to take something other than its origin and try to make it kifaya without delil. So this is clear. It's the majority of the rulings in the legislation which are called obligatory or fard ayn. Examples of those are like salah. Al-Shathari mentions salah, for example. You can't say somebody else will pray on my behalf. Can you do that when you're alive? Someone say, you're going to pray for me today. No, fard ayn, you have to pray. Same thing regarding things like zakat, siyam. It's a fard ayn, legally responsible upon you. If you don't do it, you get punishment. If you do it, you get reward. So fard ayn is the first type. And it's important because when we say something is fard, it means you get reward for doing it. And you get punishment for leaving it off. The community obligation, فرض كفاية وهو الذي يطلب حصوله وتحصيله من المكلفين لا من كل واحد بعينه, is that type of action which is its achievement and occurrence is sought out from all legally responsible people, not from every single one of them individually. So it's an action which is sought out from all legally responsible people. All the Muslims from the Jama'ah, the community, they have to perform it. Some people from them. Not every single one of them has to do it. Such examples the Shaykh gives, like learning different sciences, or beneficial manufacturing, or the adhan, or enjoining the good, prohibiting the evil, and the likes of that. Those things, if some people do it, the sin of doing it, or the reward, the obligation, is lifted from others. So for example, the adhan. If somebody makes the adhan, not all of us have to make the adhan. Just one person for the salah. One person, for example, in the community, for the jama'ah. That's sufficient. So if someone does it, then it's off of us. What if nobody does it? Let's say no one learns anything about Islam. All knowledge in the community is lost. Then all of them are sinning until someone learns it. So that's why it's so important, even if the community reaches a position where people don't know anything in ta'aleem of the deen, then it's wajib, fard kifaya, someone has to know. And if no one knows, no one learns, everyone's sinning. Mr. Shaykh Shathari says, for example, if only one person even knows something, it's not enough. More than one has to know, because what if that one person dies, passes away? That knowledge is buried too. So in a community, it's so important this type of sittings of knowledge. It should not be seen as something that we say it's okay. We'll sit, the rest won't learn. The situation should be rather that everyone's trying to learn the basics for themselves and extra in case the community might need. But those are some examples. Others, like the funeral prayer, Salatu Janazah. So when it comes to washing the Janazah and praying on them, it's fard kifaya. Not everybody has to do it. Somebody has to. For example, if someone dies and no one buries him, it's communal sin. Because we know Allah made this obligation upon us. ثُمَّ أَمَاتُهُ فَأَقْبَرَهُ. So when he dies, you bury him. And we know we have to take care of these rights. So this is some of the examples of the fard kifaya. Now, the Shaykh, when he mentions these things, he says now, وَهَذِهِ الْأَحْكَامُ الْخَمْسَةِ. These 5 rulings تتفاوت تفاوتا كثيرا بحسب حالها ومراتبها وآثارها. That these 5 rulings vary with a great variance in accordance to the conditions, degree, and effects. So it means that not every wajib is the same. Something's awjab than something else. Something's more wajib than something else. Something that's haram can be more haram than something else. So Shaykh gives some examples. He says, for example, there are certain things which are more haram or more dangerous than other things. For example, we have minor sins. Sins are haram. You have minor sins. Then you have major. Major are more haram. See? So there's not that just they're all the same. Some things can be higher than others. And with that also, depending on the situation you're in, something can change ruling. And something can also be different ruling depending on the situation of the person or the situation that somebody's in. So he says, give the example here. Prayer. So prayer, for example, for a woman, prayer is wajib. It's fard. But then, when she's menstruating, the prayer is no longer wajib or fard. So in the position when she's not menstruating, she's clean, she has to pray. She gets reward for doing it and leaving off sin. And opposite is true. In state of menstruation, it's haram for her to pray. And she gets sin if she did pray. And she leaves it off, she gets reward. So same, the ruling can change it for the individuals in accordance to that which they're in. And the same thing, we have to also take a look at the degree of the sin the action, if that certain situation calls for it to be more than what it is. And the Shaykh gives that example. This is an easy one to work with regarding the salawat. Then Shaykh Sa'di, when he mentions this point, he starts to now explain the hikmah behind the rulings. In terms of if someone wants to categorize why Islam has certain things wajib, certain things mustahab, and certain things like this, or why something halal and something else haram. He says, the Shaykh, that فَمَا كَانَتْ مَصْلَحَتُهُ خَالِصَةً أَوْ رَاجِحَةً أَمَرَ بِهِ شَارِعْ أَمْرٌ إِجَاب أو استحباب. Great benefit. He says, if something has benefit purely in and of itself, or overwhelming benefit, preponderant benefit, majority of the overwhelming side of this thing is beneficial, then the legislator, a-shari', who's Allah, has commanded it either by way of obligation or recommendation. So very important. When we look in Islam, the Sharia, anything that's wajib or mustahab, it has benefit khalisatan or rajihatan. In and of itself means purely beneficial, or majority of it is beneficial. It means even if there's a little bit of difficulty or harm, it doesn't take over the overwhelming benefit. And the opposite is true. He says, وَمَا كَانَتْ مَفْسَدَتُهُ خَالِصَةً أَوْ رَاجِحَةً نَهَى عَنْهُ الشَّارِعُ نَهْيًا أو نهي تحريم أو كراهية. That if something has harm purely in and of itself, or overwhelming harm, or preponderant harm, then the legislator, prohibits it, either making it haram or disliked. Haram or disliked. So here we benefit that the Sharia, it has wisdom. In Allah, كَانَ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. Allah is all knowledgeable, all wise. So we see a benefit. Something is not made obligation because Allah wants to make it difficult. مَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah didn't put difficulty in Islam. So we see there always has to be in it benefit, either purely or overwhelmingly. But the problem some people have, when they hear obligation, they get upset. Or they might feel like, oh, it's some mashaqqa, I have to do it, it's wajib. Forgetting that, what's the wisdom behind that obligation in the first place? So here, the Shaykh says, Shaykh Shathari, Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He didn't send Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam except as a mercy to all of the creation. And Allah said, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. Today I have completed for you your religion, and I have perfected my favor upon you. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made in the religion things that are beneficial. And then when He prohibits some things, He prohibits them because of the harm in them purely or due to overwhelming harm. As Allah describes the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the Quran, يَأْمُرُهُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَاهُمْ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. That a messenger will come prohibiting them the evil and enjoining upon them the good. Surah A'raf, ayah 157. Also in that same description, He'll make halal for them the tayyibat and haram for them the khaba'ith. He'll make permissible for them the lawful, that which is good, and that which is evil and filthy, He prohibits them. So here we see in Islam, it's in for the benefit of the khair and the salah of the khalq. And this is something which we always should keep in the back of the mind when we're learning ahkam. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ. Doesn't Allah not know His creation? So here we should always remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not doing this. These rulings are not there just for nothing. Now, the Shaykh, when he mentions these things, he starts then to mention another benefit, which has to do with the actions and how they can be changed, especially for the issue of mubah. So before that he says, after mentioning these things, that فَهَذَا أَصْلٌ كَبِيرٌ. This is a great principle. And here's the principle he's going to talk about. أَنَّ الْوَسَائِلَ لَهَا أَحْكَامُ الْمَقَاصِدِ. It's a very important principle. أَنَّ الْوَسَائِلَ لَهَا أَحْكَامُ الْمَقَاصِدِ. That the means take the rulings of their intended purposes. الْوَسَائِلَ لَهَا أَحْكَامُ الْمَقَاصِدِ. We should memorize this. That the means, the wasail, they have the rulings of the maqasid, the intended purposes. Now what does that mean? Because it's important. It means that certain things, they can be pathways to other things. So we have now in Islam certain things which have our wasail, our means, which Allah has already given us a hukm asli. So Shaykh Shathari says, for example, Allah may prohibited riba, and earning through haram. It's already prohibited. So the hukm wasail, some means the sharia have a hukm asli. For example, if someone were to say, I'm going to go earn something, some money, for mubah purposes. Like I'm going to earn some money to pay my rent. And how I'm going to earn it is I'm going to earn it through riba. Al-wasail laha al-ahkam maqasid. He's going to say, I'm doing something halal, I'm paying my rent. So can I go and now deal with riba to pay my rent? He said, no, it doesn't work this way. Because riba in itself is haram, it's a wasila that already has hukm asli, it's haram altogether. So someone should not do these kind of things. Unfortunately, there are some people, you hear them, they say these things. They will cheat the system to pay for the masjid. It's allowed to cheat people they get donation or money to pay the masjid. Paying the masjid is something good, but you can't cheat people. Or someone will go and say, I'm going to work a haram job so I can feed myself and my family. So something, if it already has a hukm asri, haram to begin with, you can't use it as for wasail to something halal. Let it be known. We're talking about things that are mubah. So the first thing is that wasail here, we're talking about wasail mubaha. They're already mubah to begin with. Then we have its rulings. Is it clear? Because some people you see, they say, well brother, my intention is good. Intention is good, but the wasila you're using already has a hukm shar'i. You forgot. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us the hukm shar'i, so you can't ignore it. So another example would be something more clear. It's like something like coming to the masjid. So for example, you have a vehicle, sayyara, and you're going to take your car to come to the masjid. Come to the masjid to pray salah, listen to the khutbah, listen to lessons, something either wajib or mustahab. And taking your car to come there, and it's the means you're going to take, and the means is permissible. So coming there now becomes that they're taking your car has the same ruling that maqasid. It's also noble and good. Sometimes you can become wajib even. So what we benefit from this is that the wasail we're talking about are mubah. Clear, the ones that are already lawful. There's no hukm asli on it. It means making haram to begin with. And the second thing is this helps us because mubah can go both ways. We say mustawi tarafain, but that doesn't mean that mubah is mubah by itself. Like sometimes mubah is mubah, and if you use it in some ways you can make it haram. Or you take something like mubah, like sleeping, and then you sleep too much, you can make it now go towards makruh and haram. So when we talk about mubah, pay attention to how wasail laha ahkam maqasid. So Shaykh Sa'di, he makes it clear by bringing down new principles that are from the basics of fiqh. First one, ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. This one you hear a lot. ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. Whatever is required to complete an obligation, it too is obligatory. Whatever is required to complete an obligation, it too becomes obligatory. So go back to the example of salah. You have a car, that's the only way you can get to the masjid for salat al-jama'ah. You have the ability to do so. You're not one of those people who are excused, right? You're not sick with some serious sickness, you have to go. Then now taking your car to come to masjid is not mubah, it's wajib. Make sense? Because مَا لَا يُتِمُّ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَّا بِهِ. Whatever cannot be completed except, or obligation cannot be completed except by it, you have to do it. So now taking your car to get to the masjid is wajib. An easier example, Salatul Jum'ah. For the male, it's wajib. Right? We have to come. And if you don't have any of those excuses, so you're going to come to the masjid. So if you can only come to Salatul Jum'ah to your car, you have to take it. Now it's wajib to take your car to the masjid. Is it clear? مَا لَا يُتِمُّ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ وَاجِب. And that's because al-wasail laha ahkam maqasid. What if we have different means? You can go in by your car, you can walk to the masjid, you can go with a friend. Then you take that which is easy for you. You can't, in that situation, you say, take any means, it's easy to get there. It's not wajib in that situation, necessarily if you have two means. I can walk or take my car. We're not going to say wajib you take your car here because you have to get there. You can still walk, So in that case, you have easiness. But if you only have one means to get there, you have to take that means. It's very important. So someone can't make that excuse. I can't come. You have the means, you have to. Next one, مَا لَا يُتِمُّ الْمَسْنُونُ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ الْمَسْنُونُ. Whatever is required to complete a recommendation, it too becomes recommended. So similar idea behind it. So for example, Shaykh says قِيَامُ اللَّيْلِ. قِيَامُ اللَّيْلِ mustahab. Recommended. Because how do we know it's mustahab and recommended? This is important. The number of evidences in the Quran and Sunnah to say Qiyam al-Layl is good. You get extra rewards. You get forgiveness from Allah. All these awards. So it shows it's mustahab. Why not wajib? Rasulullah never ordered it. He never said you have to pray. Yes, initially it was commanded upon the Messenger that he has to pray Qiyam al-Layl. And Allah removed that obligation. So now, how are you going to get up for Qiyam al-Layl? Shaykh says if you need to use an alarm bell or some kind of alarm on your phone or your So now using your phone or your alarm bell or someone to wake you up is now mustahab. If he's going to wake you up using the phone alarm to wake up for your qiyam layl, it's mustahab to put the alarm. Is it clear? Because it's going to get you to that which is mustahab. What about for Fajr? Salat al-Fajr is wajib to get up for. And the alarm bell can help you get up. Shaykh Uthaymin Sharh Salihin said it's a must to put it. It's a must. Forget about the mustahab. It's must. Because some people, they don't get up except when it's too late. So you have to. If you're that kind of person who's missing Salat, Fajr, you will have to wajib to put it on. Because ma la yatim wajib ila bihi fahuwa wajib. You see, some people, they come and say, I can't wake up for Fajr. Are you using an alarm bell? No. This is a problem, right? You can't say, I'm going to get up just by itself. You have to appoint someone or you have to use it. So for Qiyam al-Layl, it's mustahab. For Fajr, it's wajib. If this is the only means you can get up by. If someone can knock on your door and wake you up, it's a little bit easier because you have another means. So we have to remember all these things are very practical. The next one has to do with that which is haram. He says now, وَمَا يَتَوَقَّفُ الْحَرَامُ عَلَيْهِ فَهُوَ حَرَامٌ. Whatever is required to establish or to remove that which is unlawful, it too is unlawful. So whatever you need to do to prevent something that's haram from happening, then doing that thing is also a must. So for example, the Shaykh says, it's haram for someone to commit zina. And let's say this person needs to get married. So for him now, getting married is necessary for him in order to prevent himself falling into that which is haram. It's important, he has to get married now, because if he doesn't, he's going to fall into zina. And that's what some scholars say, if someone's desire is severe, that he might fall into zina, it's now he has to get married. Because it's going to stop him. So now getting married is now not recommended now. Or something good now for him, it's a must for him. And likewise, anything else like that. For example, he talks about anything else that requires you need to stop it. And that's what the Sharia, certain things have been prohibited by a lot of means to prevent the haram. So Islamically, we also try to prevent any means that lead to the haram. For example, Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. We mentioned last week, don't come near the zina. So certain af'al, if you do it, they're going to get you close to zina. So wajib you stay away from them too. So for example, anything, looking at haram, going to places where people are not dressed properly, all of these means that are there, you have to stop them. Because they're going to stop you from getting to haram. And Allah says, don't come near it. Not just don't do it. The last one, he says that which leads to makruh, it too can be makruh. So same thing. Something is makruh in itself and leads you to that which is makruh, then it takes the same ruling. Now what's beneficial about these things is that they all help us now to understand how to deal with ahkam. And the Shaykh ends the chapter with this, and we'll stop with this much of the chapter because he moves into not more than that. But some of the benefits we add to it. Is there a difference between fard and wajib? Because some people hear these words and they think they're two different things. Is fard, wajib the same? The correct opinion according to the people of knowledge is the same thing. Fard and wajib are synonymous. They're synonyms, same thing. Only the ahnaf, amongst the different madahib, the Hanafiya, they say that there's a difference between fard and wajib. They say fard is that which is clearly required from evidence is qat'i. It's clear-cut evidence. Whereas something's wajib, it's not clear-cut. The mujtahid makes ijtihad to reach that ruling. But according to correct opinion, there's no differentiation. So for example, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he might make something fard. Fard al-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam zakat al-fitr, Hadith ibn Umar. He made fard. Allah says, faridatan min Allah. This is a faridah from Allah. It's all the same. If something comes with the word fard, wajib, or hatim, or lazim, or maktub, all these mean it's a must. So pay attention, there's no differentiation. Some of the scholars, when they talk about it, they say that if you were to actually look at the evidences, it comes with different wordings. So sometimes fard, sometimes wajib, sometimes lazim, sometimes maktub, all means the same thing. So in Maraqi Su'ud, the author, he says, وَالْفَرْضُ وَالْوَاجِبْ قَدْ تَوَافَقَا. That fard and wajib, they agree in meaning. And also كالحتمي واللازمي. He said like hatim, or the word lazim, or maktubi, wama, and things like this. It's all the same. So if someone would differentiate between fard and wajib, it's a mistake. So if they said that fard means only it's clear cut, and then wajib means something that Shaykh made ijtihad, the hadith of Abu Hurairah and Bukhari Muslim, Rasul sallallahu talking about one is a must to do ghusl between when spouses have intercourse. He mentioned that at the end, if they have relations, فَقَدْ ثُمَّ جَهَدَهَا فَقَدْ وَاجَبَ الْغُسْلُ. It's wajib to have ghusl and the spouses that come together and they have intimate relations. Is this qat'i? Clear cut. It's not ijtihad here. Rasul said. So there's no differentiation. and there is no difference between them. So if you hear fard and you hear wajib, it means you have to do it, rewarded if you do it, punished if not. Shaykh Shathari, he finishes this chapter by adding now, what are the different types of rulings? So we said right now we have ahkam taklifiyya. The second set are called ahkam wada'iyya. Al-ahkam al-wada'iyya. What are those? Ahkam wada'iyya, it just means they are ahkam rulings which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Allah has made wada'aha, He is the one who established them. Mu'arrafan, to describe and explain how and when, or the nature of ahkam al-wada'iyya, taklifiyya. So some things we know you have to do, or some things you can do. But ahkam wada'iyya helps you to know the nature of the ahkam al-taklifi, whether or not someone did it correctly, how to do it, how to go about it, how to describe it. So give you some examples. One of them is shart. We hear the word shart and shurut, right? Conditions of prayer. Shurut al-salah. If you go backwards, we said salah is wajib. Salah is fard, is wajib. Allah said, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. There's tafsiri and ijmali. Now somebody says, okay, I'm going to pray salah. He gets up, he prays, and he's not wearing proper clothes. What's the problem with this? You'll say, I prayed the salah. We'll say, now you didn't pray the salah properly. How would we know that? If only we have ahkam taklifi, we'll say, no, he prayed, so it counts. So wada'iyya helps us to also know the nature of how to do the action. So the first one when we talk about is before shart even siha. You hear the word siha and fasad. Something is valid, something invalid. How is your prayer valid? You need to come with the conditions. So for example, if I prayed and I'm not wearing proper clothes, salah is batira. You say it's no good. Someone may say, brother, I prayed. You say, you prayed, but you missed the conditions. Wada'iyya teaches you need to have conditions of tahara and salah. So you didn't do them because you're not covered properly. And then your action is no good. It's batil. So that's different than just saying, Aqimu salah is wajib, pray. Somebody will pray with proper clothes, another guy will pray with no proper clothes, somebody will pray with wudu, no wudu. So you see, to circumvent those issues, Allah has given us ahkam wada'iyya. So if something, for example, is met with the condition, now you can do the action. So for example, many of us studied the shurut al-salah, we know them. If you don't come to shurut al-salah, can you pray? You can't. Even if you wanted to, even if you have a good intention, you can't. And then somebody did, they will go to the ahkam wada'iyya and say, your salah won't count, you got to do it again. So this is why ahkam wada'iyya is there. It doesn't really have to do with this risala too much. Shaykh Sa'di doesn't get into it as much, but perhaps later on we'll explain all of them. Some examples are like shart and siha and mani' and like this. And we'll get to them as we go. But this is important. Those set of rules also help you to make sure you do your action the right way. Another benefit as well, when it comes to these ahkam al-khamsa, doing everything comes with intention. So you have to add that. So to get a reward for the wajib, you have to have niyyah. To get a reward for leaving off the makruh or haram, be niyyah. No niyyah doesn't count. So haram to smoke. If someone left off smoking, not for Allah, taqarrub in Allah, but because it's not good for my health, does he get now a reward? He has the first intention. It's for Allah. Allah prohibited it. And from those benefits, he also knows when Allah prohibits, it's for radih or khalis benefit. So here, it's bad for my health. I do it for Allah. Now he gets reward. Same thing, if somebody fasted Ramadan, he's fasting for hamiyya, to diet, he gets a reward? No. He may even lose weight even. No reward. So niyyah is added to all of this. So let it not be said that someone left out something makruh just because it's makruh. Bin niyyah. Innama al-a'malu bin niyyat. So we add that to all of this because it's a precondition. Same thing with the wajib. If you happen to do an action that look like salah, for whatever reason, it doesn't count if you had no niyyah. And some people with the ghusl. Someone said, brother, I showered. MashaAllah, it's good you showered. It's not ghusl. Because what tartib did you get in? How did you start? You know, most people say, but I started with my head. No, you didn't have niyyah and you didn't do the tartib and none of that doesn't count. So you can't get reward like that. Last benefit, the mubah, because they go both ways, you can get rewarded and you can get punished depending on your intention. It's recommended for someone who's serious and who's upon khair to make intentions for their mubahat. We should be intelligent. If you intend to sleep, to get strength, to get up for Fajr tomorrow and good for work, so now you get hasanat. If you intend to eat the food which you already want to eat, but for Allah's sake to get strength so you can do khairat, you get a reward. Sahaba, they used to do this. So this is something we should always keep in back in our mind to be serious. Sahaba, they used to combine their intentions, as Mu'adhi mentioned, that I seek Allah's reward for enormity, my sleep, the same way I stand I seek Allah's reward by standing for qiyam. So you get reward for sleeping when he's sleeping on his bed, which is natural, but he's sleeping, getting reward, so he gets strength for qiyam al-layl, hasanat on both sides. So for us in our life, that's what we should be doing. Make your mubahat, a'mal, or make it khayrat. And same thing, stay from the makruh things. When you hear something's makruh and is established, for Allah's sake. You know, maybe you wouldn't do it anyways because you don't like something, but if it's makruh, you did for Allah, reward. Shall we end with this much? Anyone has any questions or something they want to add? They can do so.
Either two delays you mentioned, what will be the English translation?
So the two evidences that we mentioned last week and now, we have comprehensive evidences, adillatu ijmaliyya or adillatu kulliyya. So comprehensive evidences. And then the second one will be detailed evidences, adillatu tafsiliyya.
So the comprehensive would be for determining the ruling, right?
To determine how that particular detailed evidence can be understood to get that ruling. This is what we're studying all now. So where in that evidence is the real point of evidence? How do you understand it to be wajib? How do you understand it to be makruh? That's what it's all about. That's what we're studying in Usul al-Fiqh. Whereas the tafsiliyya, we don't study in Usul al-Fiqh. That's in the Masail al-Fiqh, like what Al-Majid teaches in Durr-Bihi. You're learning the Masail and tafsiliyya. How to do qada hajj, what's the proof for it. As for here, we're learning how that can even be a proof, how it's not a proof. That's what it is. So you need both to get a ruling. Yeah. So you start off with tafsiri, first establish the point, and then from there understand how you can understand it to be wajib, mustahab, any of the five. Yeah.
Just the wording of hadith, that's one way of understanding.
Exactly. So we're going to get to that. You can look at the wording, you can look at the intent, you can look at the. So we're going to look at it. So what are different ways to get these rulings? So far, we've established only 2 chapters of some of these things, and by the end, we have more ways to approach. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, tahajjud itself is recommendation. So Rasulullah was ordered to do it, but Allah lightened the load means that he didn't have to do it for 2/3. He still did it, but is sunnah, his practice, and he recommended us to do it. For him, he always used to pray it once it became an order. But then the how to pray it and how was long, this changed. Yeah. Yes.
So the ahkam technique is changed to rulings coming from the ahkam.
Exactly. It's still, yeah. Wada'i will be the mannerisms or the rulings pertaining to how we can describe the ahkam taklifiyya. So, for example, whether or not there's a condition, if it's accepted, is there a preventative, these things. So these are there to help us to see whether or not we're actually established the ahkam taklifiyya the way Allah wants it. Otherwise, we only have things that are wajib, mustahab, but we don't know how to go about doing it. So wada'iyya, Allah has placed it as a description for the ahkam taklifiyya. Taklifiyya, the actions that are rulings for legally responsible actions Allah wants from us. واضح؟ طيب إن شاء الله سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.